A biker's daughter was born deaf, but a simple waitress held a terrifying secret. Her act of kindness would unleash a mafia war, force an impossible alliance, and prove that some silences are a prison. The truth would be more dangerous than anyone could imagine. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The chrome on Daniel's motorcycle gleamed under the diner's neon sign, a stark contrast to the quiet girl in his sidecar. Stella, 6 years old with eyes too old for her face, watched the world through a silent pane of glass. She'd never heard his bike roar, never heard him call her name. She just watched. Lips mostly. Daniel, a mountain of leather and scars, lifted her out with a gentleness that surprised anyone who didn't know him. He settled into a cracked vinyl booth, Stella scooting in beside him, her small hands already tracing the patterns on the laminated menu. "The usual big guy," called Rita, the day shift waitress, pouring coffee without asking. "Yeah, pancakes for her. Extra syrup," Daniel said, his voice a low rumble. He tapped the table twice. Stella looked up. He formed the words slowly with exaggerated movements. "Pancakes." She nodded, a small smile touching her lips. This was their ritual, their language. The bell over the door jangled. Daniel's eyes, always scanning, flicked toward it. A new waitress. Her name tag said Lucy. She had a tired smile but sharp, observant eyes that took in the room in one sweep. The truckers, the salesman, the giant biker, and his silent daughter. Rita waved her over to their section. Lucy approached, notepad in hand. "What can I get you folks?" Her voice was pleasant, ordinary. Daniel just gestured to his coffee cup. "Refill, hers'll be up soon." Lucy nodded, filling his cup, but her gaze lingered on Stella, not the curious, pitying look most people gave. This was different, appraising. Stella was staring back, her focus intense, locked on Lucy's mouth. "She's a beautiful girl," Lucy said softly. "She's perfect," Daniel stated, a finality in his tone. Lucy knelt then, bringing herself to Stella's eye level, as if to tie a shoelace. Daniel's hand tightened around his coffee mug, but Lucy wasn't looking at him. She was looking directly at Stella, and her lips began to move, not with random, smiling words, with precise, clear, silent shapes. No sound came out. And Stella froze. Her little body went perfectly still. Her eyes, always so careful, so studied, went wide with a shock Daniel had never seen. Lucy's lips moved again, a different shape, a question. Stella's head gave the tiniest, most frantic nod. Daniel's blood went cold. "What are you doing?" he growled, the sound vibrating in the quiet booths. Lucy ignored him. She held Stella's gaze and mouthed one more silent phrase. Then, in a move so smooth it was like a dance, she reached down, slipped off her worn sneaker, and pulled out a small, slender silver tool from a hidden slot in the sole. It looked like a dental pick, but finer, a lockpick, a very specialized one. Stella's hand flew to her own ear, where her cochlear implant's processor was nestled, the expensive, top-of-the-line device that had never worked for her. The doctors said her nerves were too damaged, the implant a futile hope. She'd never reacted to it, not once. Lucy's fingers flew over the implant. There was a soft click. And Stella gasped. It wasn't a sound Daniel had taught her. It was a raw, startled intake of breath. Her hands flew to her ears. She flinched, her eyes screwing shut, then blinking open, looking around the diner as if it were a new planet. The clatter of plates was a symphony. Rita's laugh from the counter was a melody. The rumble of a truck outside was thunder. Daniel was out of the booth, looming over Lucy, blocking her from the room. "What did you do?" he snarled, his voice low and dangerous. In his world, unexpected moves meant a setup, an attack. Lucy looked up at him, no fear in her eyes, just a fierce, urgent intensity. "I just turned it on. It was programmed to fail. It was never broken. It was locked, by people who didn't want her to hear." What people? Daniel's mind raced. The clinic, the specialists, all paid for with cash from his business, the empire he'd built from nothing. "People like you, Daniel," Lucy said, and the use of his name hit him like a physical blow. She knew him, but rivals, the Volkov Syndicate, they run medical tech, they sabotage, they hide children in plain sight by making the world think they're broken. She glanced at Stella, who was now crying silent, bewildered tears clutching her ears. They trained me to do this, to find the kids they've silenced and unlock them. The diner seemed to tilt. Rita was staring. A trucker was watching. This was too exposed. Daniel threw a wad of cash on the table, enough to cover a month of meals. He scooped Stella into his arms. She was trembling and shot a look at Lucy that was both a threat and a command. "You, outside, now." Lucy didn't argue. She slid her shoe back on, pocketed the silver tool, and followed him into the cool afternoon air, away from the diner windows. He stood by his bike, Stella clinging to his neck, burying her face in his leather jacket. "Start talking, and if you're lying, if this is a Volkov play." "It's not a play, it's an exit strategy for me," Lucy said, her bravado cracking for the first time, showing exhaustion. "I was their angel. I'd get jobs in places near their targeted families. Waitress, nanny, cleaner. I'd identify the child, confirm the implant was one of theirs, and disable the lock. But I'm done. This was my last job. Your daughter, she was my last." "Why her, why me?" Daniel demanded. "Because you're Daniel Havoc Cross. You run the southern routes. The Volkovs want them. They couldn't beat you head-on, so they went through her. 3 years ago, they bribed the surgeon. The implant was a prison, not a gift. They were waiting for you to get desperate, to come to them for a miracle cure they'd provide for a price. Your empire for your daughter's hearing." The truth was a knife to his gut. He looked at Stella. She was peeking out now, staring at Lucy's mouth, then at his. He spoke slowly. "Stella, can you hear me?" Her little voice, unused, unpracticed, was a hoarse, beautiful whisper. "Daddy." The word, heard for the first time, nearly brought the hardened biker to his knees. He squeezed her tight, his eyes burning. He looked back at Lucy. "They'll be looking for you." "They're already looking. They knew I was wavering. That's why I did it here today. I need to disappear. And you need to know the enemy has been in your daughter's head for 3 years." A plan, half-formed and dangerous, crystallized in Daniel's mind. He couldn't go back to his clubhouse. It might be compromised. He had safe houses, but he had a walking target on his back, and now, a woman who was both a threat and the only person who understood what had been done to his child. "Get on," he said, nodding to his bike. Lucy blinked. "What? You think they won't find you? You just painted a target on your back in my diner. They'll be here within the hour. You're coming with us. For now, until I figure out if you're telling the truth or if this is the most elaborate hit attempt I've ever seen." The chemistry was a live wire, distrust, gratitude, and a raw shared protectiveness over the girl. Lucy hesitated, then nodded. She climbed onto the back of the bike, her body carefully not touching his. Daniel settled Stella in the sidecar, handing her his helmet. "Hold on tight, baby, new sounds." He started the engine. The roar was terrifyingly loud to Stella. She shrieked, then laughed, a sound so pure it cut through the tension. They rode to an old garage he owned on the edge of town. It was dusty, stacked with bike parts, with a small apartment above. He carried Stella up, Lucy following. Inside, he sat Stella on the couch and turned on a small, old TV to a cartoon channel. The noise made her jump, then clap her hands in delight. He turned to Lucy, the charged space between them shrinking. "Prove it. Tell me something only the Volkovs would know about my operation. The last shipment, the one that went smooth." Lucy met his gaze. "The October run, the one that went smooth because the State Patrol captain on Route 71 is on their payroll, not yours. They let it through so you wouldn't suspect the bigger play. They call it the silent trade." It was true, a cold fact known to maybe 5 people. Daniel let out a long breath. She was the real deal. The enemy was in his house. For the next few hours, they fell into an uneasy routine. Daniel made phone calls, his voice a low, threatening murmur, reorganizing his security. Lucy sat with Stella, slowly, patiently teaching her words, pointing to objects, her lips clear and slow. The sight of his daughter's face, lighting up as she connected sound to meaning, was a joy so profound it ached. As dusk fell, Daniel heated canned soup on a hot plate. The 3 of them ate in silence, the cartoon playing in the background. Stella fell asleep on the couch, exhausted by the sensory overload. Daniel handed Lucy a beer, their fingers brushed. A spark, He didn't pull away immediately. "Why'd you really quit?" he asked, his voice softer now. Lucy looked at the sleeping girl. "I was a foster kid. The Volkovs, they found girls like me, gave us a family, a purpose, taught us this skill. But it was never about freeing the kids. It was about controlling the parents. I looked at Stella today, at how she watched the world, and I saw myself, always on the outside, reading lips to survive. I couldn't leave her in the silence they made for her." Their eyes held. The attraction was undeniable, a magnetic pull in the midst of the danger. He stepped closer, invading her space. She held her ground, chin tilted up. "This is a bad idea," she whispered, but her eyes dropped to his lips. "Everything about today is a bad idea," he replied, his voice a husky rumble. He cupped her face, his thumb rough against her cheek. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was hungry, full of pent-up fear, adrenaline, and a desperate need for connection. It was electricity. It was a promise and a warning. She kissed him back with equal fire, her hands fisting in his shirt. They broke apart, breathing heavily. The moment was thick with possibility, but the couch where Stella slept was 5 feet away. The real world was outside the door. A board creaked downstairs. They froze apart in an instant. Daniel's hand went to the gun at his back. He moved to the window, peering through a crack in the blinds. 2 dark sedans, quiet as ghosts, had pulled up across the street. "Volkovs," Lucy breathed, panic in her eyes. "They found us." Daniel's mind shifted into tactical mode. "Back door, through the alley. I've got a bike stashed behind the dumpster." He scooped up the still sleeping Stella, wrapping her in a blanket. "You lead, you know their patterns." Lucy nodded, grabbing her jacket. As they slipped down the back stairs into the cold, dark alley, the front door of the garage splintered with a sound like thunder. Stella stirred, whimpering at the new, terrifying noise. "It's okay, baby. Daddy, here," Daniel murmured, and the words had sound now. They had meaning. He looked at Lucy, who was already at the nondescript motorcycle, kick-starting it. "Where do we go? Your plan?" "North to a friend. She's off the grid. She can hide us long enough to make a real stand," Lucy said, swinging her leg over the bike. Daniel got on behind her, Stella secured between them. He was putting his life, his daughter's life, in the hands of this woman from a rival syndicate. The engine purred to life, quieter than his Harley. As they pulled onto the street, he saw shadows moving in the windows above his garage. Lucy gunned the engine, and they shot into the night. The wind whipped past them. Stella, awake now, was crying, frightened by the noise and the speed. Lucy reached back, her hand finding Stella's small one and giving it a squeeze. Daniel's arms were around both of them, holding his world together. He leaned close, his lips near Lucy's ear, the charged energy from their kiss still buzzing between them. "If this is a double cross, it'll be the last thing you do." She turned her head just enough to meet his eyes, the city lights streaking across her face. "If it was a double cross, Daniel, you'd already be dead, and she'd still be in silence." They rode into the darkness, 2 enemies turned reluctant allies, bound by a little girl who could now hear the danger chasing them. The empire he wouldn't give up was under attack. The woman in front of him was either his salvation or his ruin, and the road ahead was full of nothing but uncertain, dangerous turns. Daniel guided Lucy through the back streets he knew like the lines on his own knuckles. Abandoned warehouses, underpasses that echoed with the drip of water, neighborhoods where people knew better than to look out their windows. The bike was fast and quiet, but every set of headlights behind them felt like an enemy. "Take the next left, then cut through the old rail yard," he said, his voice a low vibration against her back. Lucy followed his directions without question. She drove well, with a sharp awareness he'd expect from someone in her former line of work. Stella had stopped crying, her small body pressed between them, shivering from more than just the cold. The world was too loud, too much. After 20 minutes of winding routes, Daniel tapped Lucy's shoulder. "Pull in here." It was a self-storage facility, the kind with corrugated metal doors and flickering yellow lights. He hopped off, fished a key from a hidden chain around his neck, and rolled up door unit 117. Inside wasn't boxes. It was a small, utilitarian living space. A cot, a table, a mini fridge, and stacks of ammunition crates. "Safe house number 3, he said, ushering them in and quickly closing the door, plunging them into darkness before he found a battery-powered lantern. Stella blinked in the soft light. Lucy looked around, her arms crossed. "Cozy." "It's a bolt hole, not a bed and breakfast," Daniel grunted. He knelt in front of Stella. Her eyes were wide, scared. He spoke slowly, making sure she could see his lips. "We are safe here, for now, okay?" She nodded, her lower lip trembling. "Too loud," she whispered, the words clumsy but understood. Daniel looked helplessly at Lucy. This was her world. Lucy approached, her movements suddenly gentle. She knelt, pulling the small silver tool from her pocket again. Stella flinched. "Shh, it's okay. I'm just going to turn the volume down, not off, just softer." With a few deft adjustments to the processor behind Stella's ear, the overwhelming noise of the world faded to a manageable hum. Stella's shoulders slumped in relief. "Thank you," Daniel said, the words foreign in his mouth. Gratitude wasn't a currency he traded in often. Lucy just nodded, sitting back on her heels. "They'll be sweeping the city. They have scanners that can pick up the implant's signal if they get close enough. We can't stay anywhere long." "We need a weapon they don't expect," Daniel said, packing the small space. "Information, you know their playbook. I know the city, my men, my roots. We hit them first." Lucy barked a laugh. "Hit the Volkov Syndicate? With what? You, me, and a 6-year-old?" "No," he said, a dangerous smile touching his lips. "With a story, the story of what they did to my daughter. My club isn't full of saints, but they're loyal, and they have kids, nieces, nephews. If I show them the Volkovs are targeting children, it won't be a business war. It'll be a crusade." He saw the doubt in her eyes. "You think your biker gang is a match for a multinational syndicate?" "I think angry fathers with nothing left to lose are a match for anyone," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "But I need proof, not just your word, something concrete." Lucy was silent for a long moment. She chewed her thumbnail, a nervous habit. "There's a data drop, a failsafe. Every angel has one, a file of our operations, hidden in case we need to blackmail the syndicate for our own escape. Mine is in a bus station locker, downtown." "Downtown is Volkov Central tonight," Daniel stated. "I know, but it's the only proof that links the surgeon, the implant model number, the order to sabotage, directly to Volkov command." She looked at Stella. "It's the only thing that proves this wasn't just some medical mistake." Daniel's mind raced. It was a terrible, risky move, but it was the only move. "We go at dawn, shift change, less eyes." He looked at the single cot. "You two take the bed, I'll keep watch." Lucy didn't argue. She was exhausted, the adrenaline crash evident in the shadows under her eyes. She helped Stella get settled, whispering the names of things in the room: lantern, cot, blanket, turning the nightmare into a strange, quiet lesson. Daniel sat with his back against the metal door, a gun in his lap, listening to the sounds of the night. He heard Stella's breathing even out into sleep. He heard the rustle of Lucy's clothes as she shifted. "You should sleep too," Lucy whispered from the cot. "I can take a watch." "I don't sleep much," he replied. A pause. "She's going to be okay, Daniel. She's strong, like her dad." He didn't answer. The kindness in her voice was a trap, or maybe a lifeline. He couldn't tell which. The charged moment from the apartment hung between them in the dark, unresolved. After a while, he heard her get up. She came and sat on the floor beside him, not too close, but sharing the same pool of lantern light. She held out a protein bar. "Eat. You're no good to her dead on your feet." He took it, their fingers brushing again. This time the spark was slower, warmer. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, unwrapping the bar. "You could have run, disappeared. Instead, you're here in a storage unit with a target on your back." Lucy pulled her knees to her chest. "I told you, I saw myself in her. There's more to it." She was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. "I had a little brother, back in foster care. He had a stutter. The kids, they were cruel. The Volkovs, when they recruited me, they promised to find him, to help him. They never did. I think he aged out of the system. I don't even know where he is." She looked at him, her eyes glistening. "Helping Stella. It's like maybe I'm balancing some cosmic scale for him." It was a piece of her soul, offered freely. Daniel didn't know what to do with it. He was a man of actions, not feelings, so he acted. He reached out, his large, calloused hand covering hers on the cold concrete floor, a simple, solid contact. "We'll find your brother after this." It was a promise he had no right to make, but he made it anyway. She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers with his. No words, just the shared silence, the shared mission, the shared heat of their palms. Dawn came gray and damp. Daniel had a contact drop off a car, a boring beige sedan that screamed invisibility. They left the bike hidden. Stella, still in her clothes from the diner, looked small in the back seat, clutching a stuffed bear Daniel had produced from a duffel bag. Downtown was waking up. The bus station was a sea of tired faces, rolling suitcases, and the smell of cheap coffee. Locker 212 was in a dimly lit corridor near the restrooms. "This is it," Lucy said, her voice tight. She produced a small key from a chain around her own neck. 30 seconds, in and out. Daniel positioned himself, his eyes scanning the flow of people. He saw a man in a too-clean suit reading a newspaper, another leaning against a vending machine, not buying anything. "We have company, 2 o'clock by the newsstand, you're 3 near the benches." Volkovs, they were good, but they had a tell. They were too still in a place of constant motion. "Just get it," Daniel murmured, shifting his stance to block her from the view of the man by the benches. Lucy inserted the key, opened the locker, and pulled out a slim, sealed metal case no bigger than a paperback book. She shoved it into her bag and closed the locker. "Walk, don't run. To the car," Daniel said, putting an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close as if they were a couple. He guided her, his body a shield. Stella held onto his other hand. They were 10 feet from the station's glass doors when the man by the vending machine moved, cutting off their path. Daniel didn't hesitate. He dropped his arm from Lucy, stepped forward, and as the man reached inside his jacket, Daniel slammed his elbow into the man's throat. It was a brutal, efficient move. The man crumpled, gasping. "Run!" Daniel barked. They sprinted for the car. Shouts erupted behind them. Daniel yanked the back door open for Stella, shoved Lucy into the passenger seat, and dove behind the wheel. The engine roared to life as the man in the suit appeared, pulling a gun. Daniel stomped on the gas, the sedan's tires squealing as they shot into traffic, a bullet pinging off the rear bumper. Stella screamed, a raw sound of terror. "It's okay, baby, it's okay," Daniel yelled, weaving through cars. He caught Lucy's pale, determined face in the rearview mirror. "Did you get it?" She held up the metal case. "Got it." They lost the tail after 3 blocks, thanks to Daniel running a red light and ducking into a parking garage. He drove up to the roof, where they sat, the engine off, listening. "Now they know we have it," Lucy said, breathing hard. "Now we have something to fight with," Daniel corrected. He turned in his seat. "Stella, look at me." She did, her cheeks wet with tears. "Daddy has to go talk to some people. Lucy is going to stay with you somewhere very safe. I need you to be my brave girl. Can you do that?" She sniffled, then nodded. "Be careful, Daddy." The sound of her saying that, asking that, shattered him and rebuilt him all at once. Always. He drove to a modest house in a quiet suburb. The woman who answered the door was in her 60s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. This was Rose, his late wife's mother, Stella's grandmother, the one clean, secret part of his life. Daniel, Rose's eyes went from his panicked face to Stella, to the strange woman beside him. "What in God's name?" "Mom, no time, keep her inside. Don't answer the door for anyone but me. You remember the signals." Rose's face hardened into a mask of maternal ferocity. She nodded. "I remember." She pulled Stella into her arms. "Hello, my sweet girl." Stella hugged her tightly. "Grandma, I can hear." Rose's eyes shot to Daniel, filled with 1,000 questions, but she just kissed Stella's head. "I know, baby, I know. Come on, let's get you some cookies." She gave Daniel one last, grave look before shutting the door, locks clicking firmly into place. Back in the car, the atmosphere shifted. It was just the two of them now. The danger was more acute, the chemistry more focused. Your mother-in-law, Lucy asked. The only person on earth I trust completely, he said, pulling away from the curb. Now, we go to my clubhouse. You're going to tell your story, and I'm going to start a war. The Iron Titans clubhouse was a converted auto shop on the industrial edge of town. The roar of Daniel's personal bike, picked up from another stash, announced their arrival. Men in cuts emerged, bearded and tattooed. They nodded at Daniel, but their eyes were wary, locked on Lucy. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and classic rock. Daniel didn't bother with greetings. He walked to the old pool table and slammed his hand down on the green felt. The music cut off. Titans, listen up. This is Lucy. She's with me, and she's here to tell you what the Volkovs have really been doing. A big man with a red beard, Mark, the club's VP, stepped forward. Who is she, Havoc, and why does she smell like trouble? She's the reason Stella can hear. A ripple of shock went through the room. These men had known Stella since she was a baby. They'd seen Daniel's struggle. Lucy, to her credit, didn't cower. She stepped into the center of the room, her voice clear. My name is Lucy. I was trained by the Volkov Syndicate in a program they call the Silencers. She told them everything. The bribed surgeons, the locked implants, the targeting of rivals' children. She held up the metal case. The proof is here. Serial numbers, bank transfers, voice recordings of Volkov lieutenants giving the orders. They didn't just want your roots, Daniel. They wanted you broken. They wanted you to come begging, and they were willing to leave a little girl in permanent silence to get it. A low growl built in the room. These were criminals, but they had lines, families, children. Mark's face was thunderous. They did this to Stella, to a little girl. Yes, Daniel said, his voice echoing in the quiet. And if they did it to her, your kids, your sister's kids, they're not safe either. This isn't business anymore. This is family. The mood in the clubhouse transformed. The wariness toward Lucy melted into a grim, unified fury. Plans began to form, fueled by vengeance and a newfound cause. Later, in Daniel's cramped office above the main floor, he and Lucy pored over the data on an old laptop. Invoices from a shell company to a Dr. Evans, Stella's surgeon, audio files. Lucy played one, a cold, accented voice saying, "The cross child is the priority. Ensure the device is dormant. The father's desperation will be our entry point." Daniel's fist clenched. "I'll kill him." "You'll get your chance," Lucy said softly, "but we need to be smart. They'll be expecting a direct attack." He looked at her, really looked at her, in the glow of the screen. The sharp angles of her face, the determined set of her jaw, the intelligence in her eyes. She was the most dangerous and compelling woman he'd ever met. "You were amazing out there," he said. "I just told the truth." It was more than that. He stood, closing the distance between them. The office was small. She was backed against his desk. You stood in a room full of dangerous men who had every reason to hate you, and you turned them into an army for her. Her breath hitched, for her and for you. He cupped her face, his touch softer this time. "This thing between us, it's a complication." "The worst kind," she whispered, but she leaned into his hand. "After this is over," he started. "Don't," she interrupted, placing a finger on his lips. "Don't make promises we might not be able to keep, just for now." She kissed him. This kiss was different from the first. It wasn't just fire and adrenaline. It was deep, searching, full of a desperate hope for an after that might never come. It was a kiss that spoke of shared battles and a fragile, growing trust. His hands slid down her back, pulling her tight against him. Her fingers tangled in his hair. A loud knock on the door jerked them apart. "Havoc, we've got a problem," Mark's voice boomed. Daniel rested his forehead against Lucy's, both of them breathing heavily. "Duty calls." She gave him a small, shaky smile. "Go be a king, I'll be your secret weapon." Out in the main room, the problem was clear. A prospect, young and shaking, held up a phone. "They called the main line for you." Daniel took the phone. "Cross." A smooth, chilling voice answered. "Mr. Cross, you have something that belongs to us, a woman and a case. You return them, and we forget this unpleasantness with your daughter. You do not, and we will burn your world to the ground. starting with the sweet little house on Maple Street. Rage, cold, and absolute filled Daniel's veins. They had found Rose's house. They were threatening his daughter and her grandmother. "You listen to me, you son of a bitch," Daniel said, his voice so calm it was terrifying. "You touched my child. You stole her world for 3 years. You don't get to make threats. You get to prepare. The Titans are coming for you, and we're not coming for your business." He paused, letting the silence scream, "We are coming for your lives." He crushed the phone in his hand, plastic and circuitry snapping. He looked at his men, their faces etched with rage. He looked at Lucy, standing in the office doorway, her expression one of fierce pride. "It's time," Daniel said to the room. "We hit them tonight, not their warehouses, their homes, their families. We show them the price of touching what's ours." The clubhouse erupted into a frenzy of preparation, guns cleaned, plans drawn, engines revving. It was the calm before an unstoppable storm. Lucy walked up to Daniel, handing him a slip of paper, the address of their local commander, the one who gave the order on the tape. "His name is Alexander." Daniel took the paper, his hand closing over hers. "Stay here. With Mark, you'll be safe." She shook her head. "No, this ends how it started. With me, I know their security. I know the layout of that house. You need me." He wanted to argue, to lock her away and keep her safe, but she wasn't his to command. She was a partner in this madness. He saw the same recklessness in her eyes that he felt in his own soul. "All right," he said finally, "you ride with me." As the sun began to set, a convoy of motorcycles and trucks, armed to the teeth, rolled out of the Titans clubhouse. At its head, Daniel rode, the weight of his daughter's future on his shoulders. Behind him, her arms wrapped tightly around his waist, rode Lucy, the waitress who had unlocked a world, the enemy who had become an ally, the woman who had, against all odds, found a place in his shattered, violent heart. The final battle was ahead. The Empire was at stake. But for the first time, Daniel wasn't just fighting to keep what he had. He was fighting for a future worth hearing. Thank you for joining Daniel, Stella, and Lucy on this intense ride. What would you have done in Daniel's place? Would you trust the enemy to save your child? Let us know in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe for more stories where love and danger collide. Until next time.